The heavy, leather-bound silence of the studio settles in now. The kind of stillness that only exists when the rest of the world has finally tucked itself under wool blankets and turned off the porch lights. And here we are, just you and the low amber glow of the console lights reflecting off the dust motes dancing in the heat of the vacuum tubes. I want you to imagine a desk, not a modern one, but a thick, scarred slab of oak that smells faintly of lemon, oil and old pipe tobacco. And sitting right there in the center of a single pool of lamplight is a miracle of chrome and tan leather that feels as substantial as a brick and twice as purposeful. It is the Polaroid SX70, collapsed flat like a tired accordion, its brushed metal skin cool and slightly textured against your palms as you lift it, feeling that specific dense gravity that gadgets used to have before everything became hollow and plastic. You find the latch, that small, deliberate mechanical catch, and with a firm but gentle upward tug, the whole apparatus sighs open, the bellows expanding with a dry, papery crinkle that sounds like a secret being whispered in a library, and suddenly it stands, tall, a geometric silhouette of glass and mirrors. Your thumb finds the knurled wheel on the side, and as you turn it, you can hear the tiny, precision-ground gears singing a microscopic tune, a metallic tick-tick-tick that vibrates through the bone of your hand, while the world inside the viewfinder begins to swim and shift from a blurred soup of colors into the sharp, agonizingly clear edge of a lace curtain. There is a smell that comes with it, a faint, ozone-sweet scent mixed with the ghost of a chemical developer, a sharp tang that catches in the back of your throat and reminds you of wood-paneled dens and the way the sun looked hitting the shag carpet at exactly 4 in the afternoon on a Tuesday in 1974. You aren't in a hurry. Nobody is in a hurry at this hour, so you let your eye linger on the matte finish of the lens housing, tracing the silver logo that catches the light, and you feel the slight, oily resistance of the shutter button under your index finger, a spring-loaded promise of a moment about to be trapped in a square of white cardboard. The room around you is thick, with the rhythmic low-frequency hum of a floor fan oscillating in the corner, a steady whir-shush that anchors the silence, and outside, far beyond the window, a car tire's hum against damp asphalt, a lonely fading pitch that stretches out until it merges with the static of the night. You adjust your grip, feeling the way the leather panels have softened at the corners from years of being held, absorbing the salt and oils of hands that are long gone, and you realize that this object isn't just a machine, but a heavy physical anchor to a specific second in time. The air in the room is cool, but the camera has taken on the warmth of your skin, a slow transfer of energy that makes the metal feel less like a tool and more like an extension of your own steady breathing. There is a tray of flash cubes sitting nearby, those 4-sided glass cubes that look like frozen ice, and as you pick one up, the plastic casing clicks against your fingernail with a high-pitched, hollow sound, and you slide it into the socket on top of the camera with a definitive crunching snap that signals readiness. You look through the split-image circle in the viewfinder, watching the world divide and then snap back together into a singular perfect reality, and you hold your breath, feeling the pulse in your fingertip as it rests on the trigger, the entire universe narrowing down to the width of a glass element and the smell of a darkening room. The floorboards beneath your feet give a tiny, sympathetic groan as you shift your weight, a wooden reminder of the house's long history of settling into the earth. And the shadows in the corners of the room seem to deepen, turning from charcoal to a soft, velvet indigo that swallows the edges of the bookshelves. You wait for the perfect stillness, that heartbeat of a gap between the fan's rotations, and then you press down, feeling the heavy internal mirror flip upward with a hollow thwack that echoes inside the camera's body, followed immediately by the high-pitched, industrious whine of the electric motor. It's a sound of labor, a mechanical zzz click as the rollers engage, And then, from the wide, thin mouth at the bottom of the camera, the square film begins to emerge, stiff and wet, and smelling of vinegar and possibility. You catch it before it falls, the edges of the white border feeling smooth and clinical against your skin, and you hold it by the corner, watching the grey opaque square of the image area as it begins its slow, miraculous crawl toward colour. The motor falls silent, the camera settles back into its resting state, and you are left in the quiet again. Just you and the ticking of a clock on the wall, and this small, developing piece of the past held between your thumb and forefinger. The darkness of the image starts to break, a faint ghost of a shape appearing through the chemical fog, and you exhale. A long, slow breath that missed the surface of the plastic for just a second before disappearing into the dry, warm air of the studio. The silence in the room now is thick, almost tactile, like a heavy velvet curtain that has been drawn shut against the rest of the world, leaving only you and the low amber glow of the desk lamp and that square of plastic held between your thumb and forefinger. You can feel the slight, cool weight of the Polaroid frame, the white border feeling smooth and clinical, a sharp contrast to the textured, warm grain of the oak desk beneath your elbows. There is a faint, rhythmic ticking from the wall clock, a heavy, brass-weighted pendulum clock that slices the silence into precise, deliberate increments. And with every second that passes, the grey, opaque window of the film begins to shift, a slow, chemical stir happening beneath the surface of the clear plastic layer. You catch the scent of it again, that sharp, vinegary tang of the developer paste, mixed with the smell of the room itself, the scent of old National Geographic magazines with their heavy clay-coated paper, and the faint, lingering aroma of toasted white bread from the kitchen down the hall. Your thumb brushes the textured back of the photo, feeling the slight bulge where the chemical pod was crushed by the camera's steel rollers, a physical remnant of the mechanical violence that birthed this image. And you realize how quiet your own breathing has become, a soft, rhythmic hushing that matches the distant, low-frequency thrum of the refrigerator in the next room. The image is a ghost at first, a pale, milky suggestion of shapes rising out of a charcoal sea, and you find yourself leaning closer, the warmth of the lamp hitting the side of your face, smelling the hot dust on the light bulb as it bakes in its brass shade. You watch the edges of a silhouette begin to harden, a deep indigo blue bleeding into the grey, and you think about the way the light hit the dust motes in the air just moments ago, a trillion tiny diamonds suspended in a shaft of sun that has now been compressed, flattened, and chemically translated into this small, damp square. The room gives a soft wooden groan, the house settling into the cool evening air, and outside, a stray breeze brushes the leaves of the elm tree against the window pane, a dry, scratching sound like a fingernail on a screened door. But here, inside the pool of light, the world is perfectly still. You notice the way the light catches the gloss of the photo's surface, reflecting a distorted miniature version of the room back at you, a tiny curved mirror showing the edge of your own sweater and the glint of the glass of water sitting on a coaster. That water glass is sweating, a slow, beaded condensation trickling down the side to form a ring on the cork coaster, and the sound of a single drop hitting the table is like a drumbeat in the focused intensity of the silence. You look back at the film, and the colours are beginning to arrive now, not the bright, garish colours of the midday sun, but the muted, honey-soaked tones of a 1970s afternoon. Mustard yellows, burnt oranges, and the deep, mossy green of the shag carpet that feels like a forest floor under your bare feet. The texture of the developing image is strange, a swirling, oily transition where the chemistry is still fighting to stabilize, and you can almost hear it if you listen closely enough. A microscopic sizzling, a tiny atomic rearrangement of silver halides and dye-release molecules working in the dark. The air in the den is stagnant and cozy, smelling of the wool of the heavy curtains and the faint metallic tang of the heating vent, a dry warmth that makes your eyelids feel heavy, a comfortable wariness that settles into your joints like a soft weight. You shift your grip on the photo, your skin making a faint, tacky sound as it pulls away from the glossy finish, and you realize that the image is now fully formed, a frozen slice of a moment that no longer exists anywhere else in the universe. It is a picture of a corner of the room, the way the light hit the brass handle of the record cabinet, and as you look at it, you can almost hear the phantom sound of a needle dropping onto vinyl, that initial, static-filled pop and crackle before the music begins, a warm, analog hiss that fills the gaps between the notes. The shadows in the photograph are deep and grainy, a rich chocolate brown that holds a sense of mystery, and you trace the outline of the lamp with your eyes, comparing the real lamp to its chemical twin. There is a slight vibration in the floor, a heavy truck passing on a distant highway, the sound more of a felt sensation than a heard one, a low-frequency rumble that travels through the soles of your feet and up into the legs of your chair. It fades slowly, leaving the silence even deeper than before, a profound, hollow quiet that makes the ticking of the clock sound like a hammer on an anvil. You set the photo down on the desk, the sound of the plastic hitting the wood, a sharp, definitive click, and you let your hands rest on either side of it, feeling the grain of the oak under your palms, the little ridges and valleys of the wood telling the story of years of use. The smell of the developer is fading, now replaced by the scent of the evening air cooling down, a crisp, ozone-fresh smell that leaks in through the cracks in the window frame, mingling with the scent of the old books on the shelves, their leather spines dry and cracked and smelling of vanilla and thyme. Your eyes wander to the camera again, the SX-70 sitting there like a folded metal insect, its chrome surfaces gleaming in the lamplight, and you think about the precision of its mirrors, the way they flipped and danced to throw that light onto the film. You reach out and touch the leather trim, feeling the way it's slightly worn at the edges where your thumb usually rests, a smooth, polished spot that feels like a worry stone, a physical connection to every other time you've captured a moment like this. The room is a symphony of small, unremarkable sounds, the hum of the tubes in the radio, a soft, electrical drone that sounds like the earth itself breathing, the occasional sharp crack of a cooling floorboard, the rhythmic liquid slosh of the water in the pipes behind the wall. Each sound is a layer of comfort, a blanket of domesticity that wraps around you, making the world outside feel vast and distant and unimportant. You pick up a magnifying glass, a heavy brass-handled thing with a thick convex lens, and as you bring it over the photo, the grain of the film explodes into view, a galaxy of tiny colored dots that dance and shimmer. You can see the texture of the wall in the photo, the subtle weave of the wallpaper, and the way a single strand of hair was caught in the light, a golden thread that looks like a streak of lightning. The heat from the lamp is a steady pressure on the back of your hand, and you realize you've been holding your posture for a long time, the muscles in your neck feeling a pleasant, dull ache that asks you to lean back, to sink deeper into the cushions of the chair. The chair is an old wingback, covered in a scratchy but familiar tweed that smells of cedar and old coats, and as you lean back, the springs give a slow, melodic creak, a sound that you've known since you were a child. In the kitchen, the pilot light on the stove gives a tiny blue hiss, a constant flickering heartbeat in the center of the house, and the scent of gas and cold tile wafts through the doorway, a sharp, clean smell that signals the end of the day. You look down at your hands, seeing the way the light catches the fine lines on your knuckles, the way the shadows pool in the palms, and you feel a sense of profound, quiet gratitude for the solidity of things, for the weight of the camera, the texture of the wood, and the slow, inevitable crawl of the chemistry in the film. The radio in the corner is playing something low and instrumental, a soft piano melody that seems to be wandering aimlessly through the room, the notes falling like raindrops into a still pond, each one creating a ripple of sound that washes over you, and then disappears into the indigo shadows. You close your eyes for a moment, and you can still see the shape of the photo burned into your eyelids, a glowing, rectangular ghost that slowly fades into a deep, velvety black. When you open them again, the room feels even darker, the pool of light from the lamp feeling smaller and more intimate, a sanctuary of warmth in a house that has gone to sleep. You pick up the photo one last time, feeling its stiffness, the way the plastic has cooled down now that the reaction is finished, and you slide it into a small wooden box where dozens of others sit, a deck of captured seconds, a library of light. The sound of the box lid closing is a soft wooden thud, a finality that feels good, a job well done, and you stay there for a minute, just listening to the silence, feeling the weight of the air and smelling the fading tang of the Polaroid chemistry. The distant train whistle blows now, a long, mournful two-tone cry that carries over the hills, sounding like a memory of a journey you haven't taken yet. And the sound stretches out, getting thinner and thinner until it's just a vibration in the air, leaving you alone with the ticking clock and the dying heat of the lamp. You reach for the switch on the lamp, your fingers finding the cold metal turnkey, and for a second you hesitate, enjoying the way the light makes everything look like a painting, the way it sanctifies the ordinary objects of your life. The smell of the lemon oil on the desk is stronger now, as if the darkness is pushing the scent out of the wood, and you take one deep, steadying breath, feeling your chest expand against the fabric of your shirt, the air cool and sweet in your lungs. Then, with a deliberate, mechanical click, you turn the key, and the world collapses into a soft, textured darkness, leaving only the red pilot light of the radio and the pale, silver glow of the moon hitting the tops of the trees outside. You sit there in the dark, your eyes adjusting to the shadows, seeing the world in shades of charcoal and slate, and you realize that the room is still there, the camera is still there, and the moments you've captured are tucked away, safe in their wooden box, waiting for the next time you need to remember what the light felt like on a Tuesday in 1974. The silence is no longer empty. It is full of the ghosts of sounds, the whine of the camera motor, the crinkle of the bellows, the thwack of the mirror, and they echo in your mind like a rhythmic lullaby, a mechanical song that tells you it's okay to let go, it's okay to drift off, because the world is solid and the memories are caught and the night is long and kind. You feel the heavy, comfortable pull of sleep in your limbs, a slow gravitational tide that is drawing you down, and you listen to the last fading hum of the radio as it prepares to sign off for the night, a long, steady tone that merges with the sound of your own heart beating, slow and steady, in the perfect dark quiet of the den. The smell of the old paper and the leather and the fading vinegar lingers in your nose, a sensory anchor that keeps you grounded even as your mind begins to drift toward the edges of a dream, and you think about the chemistry of the photograph one last time, the way the layers of dye had to find their place, the way the light had to be trapped, and the way it all happened in the palm of your hand, a tiny miraculous birth in a square of white cardboard. The room is cold now, the heater having clicked off with a final metallic tink, and you pull your sweater tighter around you, feeling the wool against your neck, a scratchy, warm embrace that signals the absolute end of the day. Outside, the world is a vast, blue-black expanse, the stars invisible behind a thin veil of clouds. But here, in the center of your house, there is a core of warmth and stillness that cannot be touched by the wind or the passage of time. You let your head rest against the back of the chair, feeling the weave of the fabric against your skin, and you listen to the very last sound of the night, a single lonely cricket somewhere beneath the floorboards, chirping a steady, rhythmic pulse that sounds like the ticking of a clock made of grass and moonlight. It's time to close your eyes for real now, to let the images fade and the sounds merge into a single grey wash of peace. And as you do, you can still feel the ghost of the camera's weight in your hands, a heavy, Silver promised that the morning will come, the light will return, and there will be more moments, more colours, and more miracles waiting to be caught in the click of a shutter and the whine of a motor. The darkness is complete, but it's a friendly darkness, a familiar room that knows you. And as you drift off, the last thing you smell is the faint, sweet scent of the oak desk, a wooden scent that goes back 100 years, holding you steady in the quiet 1970s night. The pendulum of the clock swings one last time in your consciousness, a heavy brass thump that echoes in the hollow of your chest. And then there is nothing but the long, slow breath of the house and the deep, uncomplicated sleep of the captured moment. The silence in the den has a quality to it, now that feels almost liquid, a deep indigo pool of quiet that has filled every corner of the room, rising up to the edges of the bookshelves and spilling over the tops of the records, leaving only the small island-like sanctuary of your desk lamp. You reach out into the shadows just beyond the light's perimeter, your fingers grazing the rough textured cardboard of a small box, and as you pull it into the warm glow, you hear the delicate, high-pitched skitter of plastic against plastic, the sound of flash cubes shifting in their packaging. It is a light, hollow sound, like the rattling of dry seeds in a gourd, and as you peel back the flimsy paper flap, the scent of the store lingers there, a faint, synthetic smell of new cello wrap and chilled stockroom air that hasn't quite dissipated yet. You pull one out, a singular, four-sided cube of clear polystyrene that looks like a miniature ice cube frozen in time, and as you hold it between your thumb and forefinger, you feel its incredible lightness, a weightless piece of 1970s engineering that feels almost fragile against your skin. Inside the clear housing, you can see the 4 tiny reflectors, bright and concave like the eyes of a silver insect, and behind each one sits a chaotic, tangled nest of magnesium wire, finer than a human hair, waiting for the electrical spark that will turn it into a sun. You turn the cube over, feeling the serrated plastic edges and the small circular base with its 4 metal contact points, and you think about the sheer analog intentionality of it, how this little object exists solely to die in a fraction of a second, to give its entire life for one burst of brilliance. The camera, the SX70, sits before you like a patient chrome animal, its leather panels smelling of salt and old journeys, and you find the socket on top, a small square aperture that looks like a hungry mouth. You align the base of the flash cube, feeling the resistance of the spring-loaded plastic, and then you press down, a firm, steady pressure that results in a definitive, mechanical crunch click that vibrates through the entire body of the camera and up into your wrist. It is a satisfying sound, a sound of completion, the kind of tactile feedback that modern things have forgotten how to give, and you let your hand linger there for a moment, feeling the way the cube sits slightly proud of the camera's spine, a crown of glass and wire. The air in the room is still, but you can hear the faint, high-frequency whine of the camera's capacitor charging up, a thin, needle-like sound that pierces the low-frequency hum of the floor fan, a sound that says the lightning is being gathered and held in a small, electrical bottle. You shift your chair, the heavy tweed fabric of the seat rubbing against your trousers with a dry, hushed shh, and the wooden floorboards beneath the shag carpet give a slow, melodic groan of protest, a sound that seems to echo the history of the house itself. You lean forward, the heat of the desk lamp warming the top of your head, smelling the faint, scorched metal scent of the brass shade as it continues to bake in the quiet, and you look through the viewfinder once more. Everything is different now with the flash cube attached. The world feels more expectant, more precarious, as if the shadows are bracing themselves for the coming intrusion of light. You see the corner of the room through the glass, the way the gold leaf lettering on the spines of the Encyclopedia Britannica catches a stray glint of amber, the way the glass of water on the coaster has left a dark, damp ring on the wood that looks like a moon. You focus the lens, the knurled plastic wheel ticking under your thumb with a precision that feels like clockwork. And you watch the split-image circle align until the edge of a picture frame on the wall is a single, unbroken line, sharp enough to cut the air. Your finger finds the shutter button, that soft, rubberized square that feels like a secret, and you begin to apply pressure, a slow, incremental squeeze that takes an eternity in the focused silence of the midnight hour. You can hear your own heart, a slow, muffled thump-thump in your ears, and then, without warning, the world disappears. Not into darkness, but into a blinding, silent, instantaneous white that stays burned into your retinas even after the shutter has closed. It isn't a sound, really. The flash, it's a physical sensation, a sudden expansion of the air, a microscopic heat that brushes your cheek and then vanishes before you can even register the warmth. In the wake of the light, the darkness of the room feels 10 times deeper, a thick, velvety blackness that rushes back in to fill the void, and you are left blinking at a purple and green ghost of the flash that dances in the center of your vision. But then, the camera wakes up, its motor beginning that industrious, high-pitched whir as it processes the moment, a mechanical labor that feels heavy and grounded in the quiet. You hear the rollers engage, a rhythmic chunk clack, and you feel the slight forward vibration as the film is pushed out of the dark mouth of the camera, a stiff, wet tongue of plastic that tastes of chemistry and time. As the film emerges, you smell it, the Polaroid smell, that sharp, pungent, alkaline tang of the developer paste, a scent that is both clinical and magical, like a laboratory hidden inside a toy. It's a thick, heavy scent that hangs in the air, mixing with the smell of the magnesium smoke that is now leaking slowly out of the flash cube, a thin, metallic burnt toast smell that tells you the wire has been consumed, the sacrifice made. You reach out and take the photo, the plastic feeling warm from the friction of the rollers, and you hold it by the white border, careful not to touch the wet, developing surface, even though it's sealed under a layer of mylar. You look at the flash cube on top of the camera and notice that the front-facing square is no longer clear. It is now a melted, distorted landscape of charred plastic and blackened wire, a tiny scorched ruin that looks like a landscape from another planet. The cube has automatically rotated. A small internal clockwork mechanism went snick when the shutter fired, and now a fresh, untouched face of silver and magnesium is pointed forward, ready for the next time you decide to break the dark. You can hear the cube cooling down, a series of microscopic tings and pops as the plastic settles back into its shape, a tiny cooling engine in the palm of your hand. The room has returned to its state of heavy indigo peace, but the air feels charged now, different than it was before the flash, as if the light left a permanent mark on the atmosphere. You look at the photo in your hand, which is still just a slate-grey square of nothingness, and you lay it down on the desk next to the first one, the two of them sitting there like silent, developing twins. The ticking of the clock seems louder now, more insistent, and you find yourself timing your breaths to the pendulum, in for 2 ticks, out for 2 ticks, until you feel your pulse begin to slow, the adrenaline of the flash fading into a deep, comfortable languor. You pick up the glass of water, the condensation making your palm feel slick and cold, and as you take a sip, the water is crisp and tastes faintly of the cedar pipes of the house, a clean, sharp taste that cuts through the chemical tang in the back of your throat. The ice cubes in the glass shift with a musical clink-clink, a crystalline sound that echoes the sound of the flash cube, and you watch the way the ripples in the water catch the low light of the desk lamp, a series of concentric circles that expand and then vanish against the side of the glass. Outside, a dog barks once, a distant, hollow sound that carries through the cool night air, and then the silence returns, even more profound than before, a silence that you can almost feel against your skin like a soft weight. You look at the camera again, and you can't help but admire the geometry of it, the way the triangles of the frame support the weight of the optics, a triumph of 1970s design that prioritizes the physical over the digital, the heavy over the hollow. You run your finger along the chrome edge, feeling a tiny nick in the metal that you never noticed before, a small scar of history that makes the object feel more real, more tethered to the world. The shadows in the corner of the den seem to be moving, not in a scary way, but in a slow, rhythmic dance of light and dark as the floor fan continues its steady, oscillating journey, its blades cutting the air with a soft, persistent wish, wish, wish. You feel a yawn beginning deep in your chest, a slow, stretching sensation that reaches all the way to your fingertips, and you realize that the weight of the night is finally catching up to you, a warm, heavy blanket of tiredness that makes the chair feel like the only safe place in the world. You look back at the second photo, and the image is starting to emerge. The encyclopedia spines are there, a row of dark rectangles with their golden titles, and the lamp is a glowing orb of white that has pushed back the shadows. The colors are coming in now, that specific, grainy Polaroid palette that feels like a memory before it's even a day old. The deep, saturated browns of the wood, the creamy off-white of the wallpaper, and the startling bright silver of the camera's own reflection in the glass of a picture frame. It is a world of texture and grain, a world where things have edges and weight and a specific, unrepeatable place in time. You reach out and touch the used flash cube, the plastic now cool to the touch, and you think about the 3 remaining shots left on this cube. 3 more bursts of sun, 3 more sacrifices of magnesium wire. You decide to leave them for another night, for another moment that deserves to be pulled out of the dark, and you feel a sense of satisfaction in the restraint, a sense of peace in knowing that the potential for light is still there, tucked away in that little plastic square. The scent of the room has shifted again, the magnesium smoke having dissipated, leaving only the smell of the old books and the lemon oil and the faint, sweet aroma of the night air coming through the screen. You lean back, the tweed of the chair scratching pleasantly against your neck, and you listen to the house breathe. The quiet hiss of the radiator, the settling of the foundation, the distant, muffled sound of a clock in another room striking the hour with a soft, silvery chime. Each sound is a layer of safety, a reminder that you are tucked away in a corner of the universe that is quiet and predictable and warm, a place where the most exciting thing that happened tonight was a burst of light and the slow appearance of a photograph. You look at your hands in the lamplight, seeing the way the light catches the fine golden hairs on your arms, the way the skin looks soft and translucent, and you feel a profound sense of being present, of being right here, right now, in this specific pool of amber light. The radio is still humming, a low-frequency companion that fills the gaps in your thoughts, and you find yourself drifting, your mind wandering through the landscapes of the photos you've taken, the images blurring and merging into a single beautiful stream of color and light. You are no longer just a person in a chair. You are part of the room, part of the silence, part of the history of the objects that surround you, a witness to the slow, steady ticking of the world as it moves toward morning. You reach out and flip the little latch on the camera, and with a soft, papery sigh, the bellows collapse, the chrome frame folding down with a series of precise metallic clicks until the SX70 is a flat, leather-clad brick once again. You slide it to the side of the desk, its work done, and you feel a sense of closure, a sense of completion that mirrors the ending of the day. The smell of the leather is the last thing you notice as the camera moves out of the direct light, a rich, earthy scent that feels like a promise of durability and permanence. The 2 photos sit there on the desk, their chemical hearts finally at rest, their colors fixed and their stories told, and you look at them one last time before you prepare to leave the room to the shadows. They are small things, really, just squares of plastic and dye, but, in the quiet of the night, they feel like the most important things in the world, the only evidence that this hour, this specific indigo hour ever happened at all. You feel the coolness of the desk under your palms as you stand up, the wood feeling solid and unyielding, and you take a final look around the den, seeing the shapes of the furniture in the dim light, the way the books seem to lean against each other for support, the way the shadows have reclaimed the corners. It is a good room, a quiet room, a room that knows how to hold a secret. And as you reach for the lamp switch, you feel a sense of profound, weary peace that goes all the way down to your bones. The mechanical click of the switch is the final note in the symphony, a sharp, definitive sound that brings the darkness back in a sudden, cooling rush, leaving you with only the memory of the light and the ticking of the clock to guide you out of the room. You walk toward the door, your feet making a soft, rhythmic thump-thump on the carpet. And as you leave, you take the scent of the Polaroid chemistry with you, a faint, lingering ghost that stays in your clothes and your hair, a reminder that, even in the dark, the world is full of color, waiting for the next flash to set it free. The darkness of the den is no longer a void, but a texture, a thick and comforting presence that wraps around you as you sit back down in the heavy tweed chair, the springs beneath the cushion greeting you with that familiar metallic creak groan that sounds like a weary sigh of recognition. You reach out into the spill of the desk lamp, your hand moving through the amber-tinted air where the dust motes drift in slow, lazy spirals, and you pick up the discarded cardboard box that once held the film, a bright, iconic yellow and blue box that feels flimsy and light now that its heavy heart has been removed. But beside it lies the new pack, a fresh, sealed brick of possibilities, still encased in its silver foil wrapper that crinkles with a sharp, high-pitched metallic shiver as your fingernails catch the edge of the seal. It is a sound like dry autumn leaves skittering across a sidewalk, or the sound of a secret being unwrapped in a quiet room, and as the foil parts, you are met with a sudden, concentrated burst of that clinical ozone-rich scent, the smell of factory-fresh chemistry and sterile plastic. You slide the film pack out of its foil cocoon, and it feels surprisingly heavy in your palm, a dense, black plastic cartridge that contains 8 or 10 layers of potential reality, each one a complex sandwich of silver halides and dye couplers waiting for the light to hit them. The top of the pack is covered by a stiff piece of black cardboard, the dark slide, which protects the sensitive film from the very lamp you are working under, and as you run your thumb along its matte surface, you can feel the slight tension of the internal, springs pushing upward from the bottom of the cartridge. There is a battery hidden inside this plastic brick, a flat, powerful little cell that provides the lifeblood for the camera's motor and electronics, and you can almost feel the potential energy humming within it, a silent, chemical heartbeat that is ready to be tapped. You pick up the SX70 again, its chrome skin feeling chilled against your skin, and you find the small, ridged release catch on the side of the body, a tiny lever that requires a deliberate, firm slide to engage. When you move the catch, the front of the camera, the jaw, where the rollers live, drops open with a heavy, mechanical clack, revealing the dark, cavernous interior where the film pack belongs, an empty space that smells faintly of old grease and the metallic tang of the gear assembly. You peer inside, seeing the 2 steel rollers, polished and shining like silver mirrors, which are responsible for the violent, precise act of crushing the developer pods and spreading the caustic paste across the film's surface. You take the new pack, aligning the plastic rails with the metal guides inside the camera, and you begin to slide it in, feeling the initial resistance of the spring-loaded contacts as they meet the base of the cartridge. You push firmly, a steady, unwavering pressure, and you hear the most satisfying sound in the world of 1970s gadgetry, a deep, resonant thump click as the pack seats itself into the belly of the machine, a sound that says the connection is made, the circuit is closed, and the camera is alive once again. You snap the front jaw shut, a definitive, crunchy slam, and the camera immediately reacts to the new presence within it. The motor kicks in with a sudden, energetic whir, and the black dark slide is ejected through the roller's mouth, shooting out of the camera's mouth and fluttering down onto the desk with a light, papery snip. This is the camera's way of clearing its throat, of telling you that the first real piece of film is now positioned directly behind the lens, shielded and ready for the first photon of light to strike it. You pick up the dark slide from the desk, feeling its stiff, non-reflective surface, and you toss it into the wastebasket, where it hits the bottom with a hollow thunk that echoes in the quiet room. Now the camera is heavy again, weighted with the new pack, and it feels more substantial in your hands, a loaded weapon of memory, a tool that is no longer just a sculpture of metal and leather, but a functioning piece of technology. The room seems to lean in closer now, the silence deepening as you wait for the next move, the only sound being the rhythmic, low-frequency shush-shush of the floor fan and the distant, mournful whistle of a train passing through the valley miles away. You look at the camera, and you notice the small, circular window on the back, the frame counter, which has now reset itself to the number 10, the red digits looking bright and expectant against the black background. You feel a sense of responsibility toward those 10 shots, a need to make each one count, to choose the moments that are worthy of being trapped in this particular chemistry, and you find yourself looking around the room with new eyes, searching for the textures and the shadows that will translate best into the grainy, honey-colored world of the Polaroid. The smell of the room is shifting again. The fresh plastic scent of the new film pack beginning to mingle with the lemon oil of the desk and the lingering, ghostly tang of the magnesium from the earlier flash, creating a complex, nostalgic perfume that anchors you to the present moment. You reach for the camera's focus wheel, turning it slowly and feeling the microscopic click-click of the gears, and you watch as the world inside the viewfinder comes into a sharp, agonizingly clear focus, the edge of a lace doily on a side table becoming a jagged landscape of threads and shadows. There is a beauty in this mechanical precision, a comfort in knowing that every movement you make is being translated by physical gears and glass and springs, a direct line of cause and effect that feels honest and grounded. You shift your weight in the chair, the tweed fabric making a soft, abrasive sound against your back, and you feel the cool air from the fan brushing against your neck, a rhythmic pulse of wind that keeps the stillness from becoming stagnant. You are in no hurry to take the next picture. The joy is in the preparation, in the ritual of the loading and the focusing and the waiting, a slow-motion dance that celebrates the unremarkable details of a quiet life. You notice a small brass bowl on the corner of the desk, filled with paper clips and a few loose buttons, and the way the lamplight hits the rim of the bowl creates a brilliant golden crescent that seems to vibrate against the deep shadows of the wood. You move the camera toward it, the leather panels making a faint, tacky sound as your palms grip them tighter, and you feel the weight of the glass lens assembly shifting as you tilt the camera downward, a subtle change in the center of gravity that you can feel in the tendons of your wrists. You look through the viewfinder, and the brass bowl becomes a universe of light and texture, the scratches on its surface looking like ancient riverbeds, the paper clips like tangled silver wire. You hold your breath, the silence in the room becoming so absolute that you can hear the faint electrical hum of the lamp's filament, a tiny, singing vibration that seems to be coming from the air itself. The floorboards beneath you give a sympathetic creak as you lean in, a wooden reminder that you are not alone in this house, that the very structure of the building is participating in this moment of quiet observation. You find the shutter button again, your finger resting on it with a light, tentative touch, and you feel the spring tension beneath the rubber, a mechanical promise that is just a few millimeters away from being fulfilled. But you wait. You wait for the house to be perfectly still, for the wind outside to die down, for the train whistle to fade into the hills, until there is nothing left but the beat of your own heart and the potential energy of the film pack. The air in the den feels thick and sweet, smelling of old paper and the cool, damp earth from the garden outside, a smell that reminds you of childhood summers and the way the world felt when it was still big and mysterious. Suddenly a moth flutters into the pool of light from the lamp, its wings making a soft, frantic patter-patter against the brass shade, a sound like a tiny deck of cards being shuffled in the dark. It's a momentary intrusion, a chaotic bit of life in the center of your focused world. And you watch as its shadow dances across the desk, a flickering, grey ghost that disappears as quickly as it arrived. You smile to yourself, the movement of your muscles feeling slow and deliberate, and you realize that these are the moments the camera was made for, not the grand events, but the tiny, flickering ghosts of a Tuesday night. You adjust your focus one last time, the gears singing their microscopic tune, and you feel the camera become an extension of your own body, a third eye that sees the world in terms of light and shadow and chemistry. You think about the film sitting inside the pack, the layers of dye and developer just waiting for their moment to be crushed, and you feel a strange sense of kinship with the machine, a shared purpose in the act of preservation. The room is a sanctuary, a place where time has slowed down to a crawl, where the only thing that matters is the texture of the wood and the weight of the glass and the smell of the air. You look at the second hand of the clock as it sweeps across the face, a smooth, silent movement that seems to mock the idea of urgency, and you let yourself sink even deeper into the tweed cushions, feeling the warmth of the lamp on your hands as they cradle the chrome body of the SX-70. The scent of the leather is stronger now, warmed by your grip, a rich and earthy aroma that speaks of quality and longevity, of things that were built to last in a world that was moving too fast even then. You realize that the film pack is like a heart, a source of power and life that animates the cold metal and glass, and without it, the camera is just a beautiful object, a sculpture of a lost era. But with the pack inside, it is a living thing, a partner in the process of seeing, and you can feel the subtle vibration of the capacitor as it maintains its charge, a tiny electrical tremor that you can feel through the leather panels. You think about the photographs you have already taken, the ones sitting in the wooden box, and how they started just like this, as a weight in the hand, a smell in the air, and a click in the dark. Each one is a heartbeat of the film pack, a pulse of light that has been captured and held, and you feel a sense of pride in the small collection you are building, a library of the unremarkable. The silence of the house is now complete, the refrigerator in the kitchen having finished its cycle, leaving a void of sound that is filled by the distant, rhythmic thump of your own pulse in your fingertips. You look down at the brass bowl again, the golden light still dancing on its rim, and you know that the moment is right. The shadows are deep enough, the light is soft enough, and the world is quiet enough for the chemistry to do its work. You don't press the button yet, though. You linger in the anticipation, enjoying the feeling of the camera's weight and the smell of the room and the knowledge that you have 9 more heartbeats left in the pack. The night is still young, and the indigo shadows are long, and there is so much more of the world to see through the glass. You let your eyes drift away from the viewfinder for a moment, looking at the way the light from the desk lamp fades into the darkness of the hallway, a soft gradient of amber to charcoal that looks like a painting by an old master. The air is cooler now, a crispness that speaks of the late hour, and you can feel the fine wool of your sweater against your wrists, a soft and scratchy comfort that keeps the chill at bay. You are perfectly, beautifully alone in this moment, a ghost in a house of ghosts, armed with a machine that can turn the invisible into the tangible, the fleeting into the permanent. You take a long, slow breath, the air filling your lungs with the scent of lemon and ozone and old paper, and you feel a sense of absolute peace, a quiet joy that doesn't need to be spoken. The film pack sits in the camera, silent and waiting, its spring-loaded heart pushing the next frame against the gate with a gentle, persistent pressure, and you think about the microscopic journey that light is about to take, through the glass elements, off the mirrors, and into the silver grain of the film. It is a miracle of physics and chemistry, a small mechanical ritual that happens in the blink of an eye, and yet it feels like something ancient and sacred in the quiet of the den. You move your finger back to the shutter button, feeling the familiar texture of the rubber, and you prepare to give the camera its next command, to trigger the motor and the rollers and the flash, to start the cycle of creation all over again. The room is ready, the camera is ready, and you are ready. The world is a stage of shadows and light, and you are the witness, the one who holds the heartbeat of the film pack in your hands. You close your eyes for a second, picturing the image as it will appear, the golden rim of the bowl, the silver tangle of the paper clips, the deep brown of the wood, and when you open them, the world looks even more vibrant, even more full of detail and texture. You lean in, the chrome of the camera brushing against your eyebrow, and you let the silence of the room wash over you one last time before you break it with the industrious, beautiful sound of the machine, doing what it was born to do. The smell of the vinegar and the plastic and the old house is all around you, a sensory cocoon that protects you from the passage of time, and as you prepare to press the button, you feel a sense of timelessness, as if you have always been here, in this chair, with this camera, in this pool of light. The film pack is warm now, absorbing the heat of your hands and the lamp, and you can feel the subtle, internal movements of the springs as they adjust to your grip, a living, mechanical response that makes the camera feel like a part of you. You are ready for the next heartbeat, for the next burst of light, for the next moment to be born out of the dark and the chemistry and the quiet 1970s night. The silence of the house has reached its deepest point now. That hollow, resonant stillness that occurs in the small hours when even the walls seem to have finished their settling and the very air feels heavy with the weight of the night. You sit in the heart of this silence, the SX-70 cradled in your hands like a silver and leather relic, and you focus your entire being on the mechanical throat of the machine, the place where the miracle of the image becomes a physical reality. You can feel the coldness of the chrome against your palms, but beneath that surface chill, there is the residual warmth of the motor, a faint, lingering heat that tells you the camera is primed and hungry. Your thumb rests near the front of the camera, just below the exit slot, where you can feel the subtle, oily vibration of the gear train waiting to engage, a microscopic tension that hums through the metal and into the bone of your hand. You have chosen your final subject for the evening, a simple, weathered wooden spindle from an old spinning wheel that sits in the corner of the den, its surface a topographical map of nicks, scratches, and the smooth, polished patina of a century of touch. Through the viewfinder, the spindle is a monumental column of amber and shadow, and as you turn the focusing wheel, you hear the internal lens carriage move with a dry, precise scritch skit that sounds like a needle traversing the run-out groove of a long-played record. You are looking for the exact point where a single splinter of wood catches the lamplight, turning into a golden spear against the deep, chocolate-colored background of the wood-paneled wall, and, when you find it, the world snaps into a clarity that is almost painful. The air in the room is stagnant and sweet, smelling of the lemon oil you used on the desk earlier in the week, and the faint, dusty scent of the heavy wool curtains that hang motionless by the window. You take a slow, shallow breath, smelling the ozone of the camera's electronics and the sharp, metallic tang of the rollers, and then you press the shutter button for the final time tonight. The reaction is instantaneous and violent in the quiet room. The internal mirror flips up with a heavy, hollow thwack that echoes inside the camera's body, and the motor begins its grumbly, industrious song, a deep-throated mechanical grrr-zip that vibrates through your entire chest. This is the sound of the rollers, those two precision-ground steel cylinders that are the real heart of the process, and as the film begins its journey through them, you can feel the resistance of the chemical pods being crushed. It's a tactile sensation that is impossible to describe to anyone who hasn't felt it. A rhythmic, stuttering vibration as the pods of developer paste are flattened, their contents squeezed out in a single perfectly even wave across the face of the film. You imagine the rollers as a pair of silver millstones, grinding the moment into a permanent form, and you can almost hear the microscopic crackle of the caustic soda as it is spread thin, a chemical tide rushing into the layers of the film sandwich. The vibration in your hands is a living thing, a grumbling, low-frequency tremor that tells you the gears are working hard, their teeth interlocking with a precision that was designed in an era when machines were meant to be felt as much as used. The sound of the motor transitions from a growl to a high-pitched, triumphant whine as the film clears the rollers, and you see the white border emerge from the camera's mouth, stiff and determined, moving with a slow, mechanical gait that feels like it's being pushed out by the sheer force of the night's memories. You catch the photo as it falls, feeling its incredible stiffness, a rigidity that comes from the heavy plastic backing and the fresh, wet chemicals that are currently fighting to stabilize between the layers. The scent that hits you now is the strongest it has been all night. It is a thick, pungent cloud of Polaroid air, a sharp, vinegary, alkaline aroma that seems to coat the back of your tongue and fill your sinuses with the smell of instant creation. It is a smell that belongs to the 1970s, a smell of technological optimism and domestic magic, and as you inhale it, you feel a deep, grounding connection to the present moment. You lay the photo face down on the oak desk, a ritualistic move to protect the developing dyes from the direct glare of the lamp, and the sound of the plastic hitting the wood is a soft, muted tack that signals the end of the mechanical labor. The camera motor sighs to a halt, the last of the electrical whine fading into the silence of the room, and the silence that follows is even more profound than before, a silence that is now colored by the fading smell of the developer and the cooling heat of the machine. You let your hands fall to your sides, feeling the tingle in your fingertips from the vibration of the rollers, and you look at the camera sitting there, its mouth still slightly agape, smelling of grease and silver. The floorboards beneath your feet give a final settling click, as if the house itself is exhaling after the excitement of the flash and the motor, and you find yourself sinking deeper into the tweed chair, the fabric feeling soft and scratchy against the back of your neck. You look at the photos sitting on the desk, the first one of the lace, the second of the brass bowl, and now this final, hidden image of the spindle. And you realize that you have spent the last hour in a state of sensory meditation, a slow-motion exploration of a world that usually goes unnoticed. The ticking of the clock has slowed in your mind, each tick-tock a heavy, brass-weighted anchor that keeps you from drifting too far into the shadows of the room. Outside, the wind has died down completely, and the world is a vast indigo stillness, broken only by the rhythmic, distant hum of a transformer on a telephone pole, a sound that is so constant it has become a part of the silence itself. You reach out and touch the back of the final photo, feeling the slight bulge where the chemistry was spread, a physical braille of the image's birth, and you can feel the photo cooling down as the reaction stabilizes. The smell of the vinegar is fading, being replaced once more by the scent of the old books and the cedar and the night air, and you feel a sense of absolute completion, a feeling that you have captured enough of the world for one night. You think about the rollers one last time, the way they sang their grumbly song, the way they crushed the light into a liquid form. and the way they felt like a heartbeat in the palm of your hand, and you realize that this is what you will remember most. Not the images themselves, perhaps, but the mechanical process of their creation, the tactile reality of the 1970s gadget. The light from the desk lamp seems to be growing dimmer, though you know it is just your own eyes growing weary, and the shadows in the corners of the room have become soft, velvet shapes that invite you to close your eyes. You listen to the last few sounds of the broadcast, the soft, analog hiss of the radio, the occasional pop of static that sounds like a tiny firework in the dark, and the rhythmic, liquid slosh of the water in the glass as it settles into the coaster. Each sound is a lullaby, a mechanical song of the night that tells you it is time to let the world go, to leave the camera and the photos and the lamp behind and drift into the uncomplicated dark. You reach for the camera's latch, and with a final papery crinkle sigh, you collapse the bellows, the chrome frame folding down into its flat, portable shape with a series of precise metallic clicks. You slide it to the very edge of the lamp's light, where it catches one last glint of amber on its leather trim, and then you sit back, your hands resting in your lap, feeling the texture of your own skin and the warmth of the room. The scent of the lemon oil is a ghost now, a faint, sweet memory that lingers on the air, and the ticking of the clock is the only thing left to mark the passage of the night. You turn over the final photo, and the spindle is there, rising out of the chemical mist like a fossil being unearthed from the clay. The colors are perfect. The deep honey gold of the wood, the charcoal shadows of the wall, and that single brilliant spear of light that you saw through the viewfinder. It is a masterpiece of the unremarkable, a small square miracle that didn't exist 10 minutes ago, and as you look at it, you feel a sense of profound peace. You have done your work. You have been the witness. You have heard the roller's song and smelled the birth of the image, and now there is nothing left to do but sleep. The room is a cocoon of nostalgia, a 1974 sanctuary that exists outside of time, and as you reach for the lamp switch, your fingers finding the cold, knurled metal, you feel a wave of gratitude for the solidity of the world. You turn the key, and the mechanical click is the final punctuation mark on the evening, a sharp, definitive sound that lets the darkness back in. The red pilot light of the radio is the only thing left, a tiny glowing ember in the blackness, and you watch it as you breathe in the last of the Polaroid scent, a faint, sweet and metallic perfume that will stay with you in your dreams. The silence is now absolute, a heavy, velvet weight that settles over your shoulders, and you listen to the rhythmic pulse of your own heart, a slow and steady beat that matches the ticking of the clock. The world of the 1970s is still here, tucked away in the shadows and the leather and the chrome, and as you finally let your eyes close, the last thing you see is the ghost of that golden spear of light, a flickering memory that carries you off into the deep, indigo quiet of the night. The journey is over, the film is spent, and the music of the rollers has faded into the long, slow hum of the universe. You can feel the scratchy tweed of the chair one last time, a physical anchor that lets you know you are safe, you are home, and the night is kind. The smell of the old paper and the cedar and the fading chemistry is a sensory lullaby, and as you drift away, you think about the box of photos on the desk, a deck of captured seconds that will be there waiting for you in the morning, a library of light that proves you were here. You saw the world, and you heard its mechanical heart beating in the dark. The last sound you hear before the dreams take over is the tiny rhythmic tink-tink-tink of the lamp's brass shade cooling down in the darkness, a final metallic farewell from the world of gadgets and light. And then there is only the silence, the deep, uncomplicated peace of the 1-hour sleep broadcast, and the instant chemistry of a life well lived in the slow, honey-soaked hours of the past.